These poor souls who are looking for some answers. We've given them to them, but they're blocked by some of their views on guns. They have the 3 Gs, guns, gays, God, that would be a woman's right to choose. And the cultural issues cloud some of their reception of an argument that really is in their interest.
Good morning, everybody. So I put together this little video this morning for you to listen to of how these elite talk about us, particularly the ethnic community, when we don't agree with their opinion or their decisions. So it's understanding that we're going to start off with Nancy Pelosi defining democracy. But listen closely and you will understand what democracy is and why our forefathers escaped democracy to build a republic. That is the importance, and this is why we never hear the republic. This is why they took the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools, because we're pledging to a republic in the Pledge of Allegiance. And they can't try to brainwash us into democracy when we're pledging to a republic. So listen to what she says. And again, democracy is anything, majority vote, anything, anyone in majority of agreement. So if you do not agree, then you're a nationalist.
What is democracy? Let's define democracy. Democracy is the rule of law. Democracy is free and fair elections. Democracy is about the independent judiciary. It's about freedom of the press, to have transparency and to have accountability of elected officials to the people. It's about all of that. And that is everything that the populist regime in Washington, D.C. is against.
Who exactly is the populist regime in DC that she's referring to? Is that the Democrats? The populist regime that she describes being against that sounds closer to what the Democrat Party currently are than anything else. Populism is a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by established elite groups. By this definition, I'm not surprised that Madam Pelosi is against populism. After decades in DC, after decades as a congresswoman, she has become to personify, to be the face of the elite establishment that the American populist movement is fed up with.
Ethno-nationalistic populism. Whether it's people different from me, nationalism, ethnic negativity.
She's basically calling a large swathe of the country, sort of imbeciles, fascists, Nazis, whatever language they want to use. This is what I have a problem with when they do this. They try and demonize a whole group of tens of millions of Americans in one umbrella.
People have had enough of it. I add to the point, CNN put out a poll about a month ago showing how different groups in America are polling for the upcoming presidential election. Trump's votes amongst black Americans has gone
rocketing.
From 12% to 28%. From Hispanic Americans, it's now at 48%. The point I want to make is she wants to say that they're all ethno-nationalists. Are we to believe that all of those minorities in America have suddenly seen the light and are white nationalists? It's a totally absurd position.
And this is why we see the immigration problem that we have, because the minorities in this country has been converted into white nationalism, and they have to bring in a whole new minority group so that they can sway the votes.
How many illegals are coming across the border every day?
A lot.
So about 10 to 15,000 a day. Do you think Joe Biden...
And they're all going to vote Dem.
You're okay? Can you say that again?
The illegals? Well, illegals. Yeah, they're coming here. They're going to vote Democrat, and we're going to win.
So now, another thing she does a couple of times in her speech is bring up that good old phrase, fake news. Let's have a look.
What do the Republicans say? Fake news.
Madam Pelosi is, of course, referring to one of Trump's favorite phrases, fake news. But I don't know about you. Since Biden's come to power, I hear the words disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, maybe every single day. Is that not the same thing, but in reverse? Are they not doing the same thing, but using slightly different words? Well, I'll tell you one big difference. The Biden administration, unlike the Trump administration, set up the Disinformation Governance Board, a governance board designed to advise the Department of Homeland Security on combating disinformation or fake news. Now, so dystopian was this Ministry of Truth, Biden closed down the whole operation after a few months. Why Biden closed it down, we won't ever know. Now, this is probably the most repugnant part of her entire speech.
These poor souls who are looking for some answers. We've given them to them, but they're blocked by some of their views on guns. They have the 3 Gs, guns, gays, God, that would be a woman's right to choose. And the cultural issues cloud some of their reception of an argument that really is in their interest.
These poor souls who aren't able to use their rational capabilities to see that Democrat policies were for them. She says they're blocked by their culture and by their God. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds a little bit like Hillary Clinton basket of deplorables all over again.
You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
In fact, Barack Obama said something very similar back in 2008.
Get better, and they claim to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or anti-immigrant sentiment, or anti-trade sentiment. A way to explain their frustrations.
This isn't a left or right issue, a Democrat-Republican issue. It's establishment versus the people. They all do the same thing. Pelosi is an unreconstructed elite. She has not upgraded the software since 2016. She proves my point in her speech that she holds ordinary people in contempt.
The version of populism, ethno-nationalist populism, which tries to bring down education and fake news, the media, which is a protector of democracy, that version is contributing in countries other than our country and is a danger to democracy.
The Hunter Biden laptop story, which only about a month before the 2020 elections was not covered by anyone except the New York Post. Seems quite important, don't you think? Or what about the Twitter files that exposed government collusion with big tech? Who covered that exactly? Nearly no one. But even more recently, Catherine Ma, the newly appointed CEO of NPR, had this to say.
In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done.
The number one challenge here that we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights. And that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real market economy around it.
Now let's have a look at Pelosi's concern of dark money from billionaires influencing politics.
The fear that they're instilling in jurists in our country, the suppression of the vote in our country, the role of their big, dark, rich billionaire donors.
Madam Pelosi, I wonder if you knew that President Biden is one of the largest recipients of dark money in US politics.
And generated by an ethnic negativity about immigrants, immigrants, people who are different from them, these people.
And there she goes again, proving a point I made in my speech. She writes off ordinary Americans as racist instead of engaging with the genuine concerns they have around immigration. Concerns like decreasing wages, concerns like increasing crime, concerns like social cohesion. These are all genuine concerns Americans want to see addressed, but instead she labels them all as ethno-nationalists.
Ethno-nationalists.
I'm not sure I'm quite intelligent enough to summarize Madam Pelosi's incoherent ramble of a speech.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.